Welcome. This session, the human solution, I think it totally has so much to do with what is going on today in the marketplace with technology and with AI and all the rest of it, and all the study that I've done in the science of human behavior for the past 35 years is really playing into this now. So going through this presentation, we'll get you on with your day as quickly as we can, but we're going to be covering the science of human behavior, how it's created. I think it's incredibly important to be able to go through the science for a couple of moments, just to get the buy-in. One of the things that I've found very consistent in my career is that if you ask someone to do something, if they don't believe it and they don't buy into it, then chances are they're not going to take the action. And so that's what it's all about. The impact of behavior on buying decisions, which I think is incredibly important these days in the marketplace. It always has been, but today more than ever, we're going to be focusing on that. A new behavior approach for client approach for branding and new business development. We'll be talking about that and sharing that with you, and some of the key factors impacting the high net worth market today as well. So that and a lot more we're going to be covering. We should get you on with your day, I would imagine, within 35, 40 minutes or so, and get you on with that. So we'll switch screens here and go to the just want to see if there's anything that I need to do here. Show management participants. Okay, good. We're good on that. All right. So this slide that's on the screen right now, I think is so incredibly important. This is a slogan that I developed when I founded the company some 22 years ago. And I think that it's so pointed on everything that we do in life. When we are in a meeting, when we're going to a conference, when we're, taking in information, when we're reading a book, this became, so ingrained in the behavioral aspect of this is this statement: the difference between wanting and having is doing. And quite honestly, if we don't take action, what ends up happening to that thought in the subconscious mind that in the moment was something that's, was very powerful, very quickly will slip away. And I think that we've all had those great experiences of going to conferences and hearing great speakers or reading great books or having these, wonderful inspired thoughts. And in the moment, it dissipates and slips away. And so, I ask you to, kind of set this in your mind, not just for this presentation, but for all learning going forward, that liar in our mind is very powerful, and it's very capable of stealing away whatever opportunities that we have. So again, the difference between wanting and having is doing. Very very key and very important. So the human solution, the reason that I created this is very much in line with a lot of teaching that I've done for many years, a lot of the study for a great many years. But with technology playing more and more of a role in the business environment today, it really has become a mainstay and necessary. And the greatest challenge, I think, for advisors always was, and it certainly is today more than ever, especially going into the high net worth market, is how to set yourself apart. And in looking at this, it really, comes down to the human solution, which is that personal interaction on an emotional level, connecting with clients on an emotional level, and really deepening those relationships, which is going to, drive new business development. It's going to drive client loyalty. It's going to drive referrals in the future, and all the rest of it. So I wanted to talk a couple of moments and share some information on this about human behavior. As I've, told many people over the years, I'm the geek who sits on the dock at the cottage studying neuroscience. I'm fascinated by it, but being able to prove it to people, I think, is very much a key as well. So, what you're seeing here on the screen, this video that I'm about to play, it kind of takes that out of it's his opinion to no, this is science. So, when we have a thought, and thought related to behavior creates just so much, but we have to be able to prove what a thought is. And if I said to pretty much anyone, what is a thought? It's like, well, I don't know. I have a thought and I, I share some information that was rolling around in my head, or I had a thought about something that was going to happen yesterday. But thoughts, in effect, they truly are physical. So let's have a thought uh, right in front of you on the screen here, and how a thought formed. It is in slow motion. Those neurons joining, that just became a neural pathway, synapses joining the neurons together, that became a thought in the brain. I've always been fascinated by that, because when you do a dissection of pretty much any human brain, it's all going to look pretty much the same, but on a cellular level, it is not. Every one of us having some 100 billion brain cells inside of our brain, each brain cell having 1 to 10,000 synapses that connects one cell to the next. And so the calculating power of the human brain is this number: 100 billion to the power of 1 to 10,000. There are more potential synaptic connections in the brain than there are grains of sand on Earth. So, first and foremost, we own an incredible machine. But it's really important to understand, I think, that when you're talking about behavior and you're talking about the science of it, that there is a physical function that goes on to this, that supports everything in all the learning and all the study that I've done into this field. Very important. So, why we're talking about that right now is in relation to purchasing decisions, because the thoughts that people have, and specifically the emotions that are related to those purchasing decisions, are 95% based on subconscious factors. So the subconscious factors are, how we, you know, our bodies operate on a subconscious level, but then the accessing of all the information that we take in over a lifetime that's stored in files in the subconscious mind. We'll talk about that a little bit more coming up. But 95% of all purchasing decisions are based on subconscious factors. The second part of this is the persuasiveness ratio. Look at this number, and really, you know, take notice of what some of this study has come up with as far as where we should be going in our business approach. So the persuasiveness ratio, 24 to 1, basing emotions compared to reason. 24 times more likely that a client is going to want to do business with you based on emotions over reason. And Jim Rohn, who is, one of the grandfathers of my business, who was Anthony Robbins' mentor, one time said this: "We would call that a clue," and we certainly would in looking at this. Purchasing decisions, emotional reactions are 3,000 times faster than reason. So when someone is making a decision on a purchase based on emotion, the emotional reaction is 3,000 times faster than their rational mind to sit and parse out all of the information they've been given and try and make a decision, based on that typical pushback that most of us have, the aversion to being sold. And so the impact of emotional connections on client retention, 62% increase. Referrals, a 71% increase. The lifetime value of the client, a 306% lifetime increase. So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I'm trying to make the case here for my client, the emotion, that this is so much more powerful than the typical business approach, and we'll get into that a little bit more in coming up in a few moments. So, behaviors, how we create them, how we change them, and how we manage behaviors in our life is, it is so consistent and so important across so many different levels. Past behaviors, for all of us, and they do create roadblocks. They create roadblocks for us personally, whether it's action that we take, or we procrastinate, or we put this off, or we don't believe we can be able to get there, and everything down to the past behaviors that most people have, which is that fear of being sold. which really plays into, the business and the sales model. It's inherent in pretty much all of us. You walk across a car lot looking at a new model, and the car salesman comes walking over to you, and you immediately go into that protective mode. We don't want to be sold something that we don't want. Or you're standing in a clothing store and you come out trying on some new pair of pants or a shirt or a dress or an outfit, and the clerk walks over to you and you become guarded once again. The doorbell rings and you open the doorbell and there's somebody standing there with a clipboard and a badge. What's our reaction? We're not saying, wow, I want to find out everything you have to tell me, because we're in a very, very guarded position. And so past behaviors for so many people when it comes down to business and sales is very, very linked to that. New positive behaviors can absolutely pave the way to new behaviors for yourself and for the client, and enhance client loyalty and so much more. And so just to spend another couple of moments on this, on behaviors, and we'll get on with this, but I think this is so interesting in being able to make the decision of what path that you in fact want to take. So here's how behaviors are created. So the information that we take in over a lifetime is stored in the subconscious mind, for all of us. Again, there are these, tiny neurons in the brain that create neural nets that be able to store the information. And the more we put information in, the more dominant it becomes. I don't know if I have one here. Yes, I do. Right. So here's a file folder, and the file folder right now is empty. But no, actually, there's one receipt in this file folder. So this is what happens inside the subconscious mind when we learn a new piece of information about something completely new. We put a piece of paper into that file. And then every time we learn more information or take in more information about this specific topic, then more and more and more information goes into the file. And the file gets thicker and thicker and thicker. And the brain kind of works like a filing system. The more dominant the file, the larger the file, the more easily it's accessed when we have a thought, when we're invested in action, when something like that is going on, then we access the top file. The information doesn't necessarily have to be true either. And it's amazing how this can drive behavior for so many people. One of the great examples of one of the great lies of all time is the fear of flying. You look at it and there's something like 70% of the population has an aversion to flying. They don't like it. They don't like the turbulence. Yet they can get in their car and they're going over all kinds of bumps and everything else in the car on the way to the airport. Yet they're absolutely terrified of the safest form of travel in the world. And I did the research one time on flying. You are 600 times more likely to die in your car on the way to the airport as you are to be able to die in the airplane. So it's, absolutely critically important to know this, that the information doesn't have to be true to be able to have it, make that kind of an impact on you. Yet it really does impact people in such a large way. So next is how decisions are made. Again, every thought we have and every action we take, we go inside the subconscious mind, open the files from past experience, and say, what do we know about this? We're not aware of it, but again, we grab the most dominant file, and this is the information that drives decisions. The recall of that information is also connected to past experiences. Again, doesn't have to be true, doesn't have to be current. And so many times we end up living our lives that way, and clients will as well, in making decisions based on the intake of information that they have had in a past experience. They had a bad, run through a market. They worked with a bad advisor before. Something has happened in their past that has colored the way that they make decisions now. The other part of this is that there is, so much more to all of this because of the chemicals of emotion. So every time we have an emotion, it's not just the psychological part of it. Okay, there are chemical compounds or neuropeptides that are created in that emotion that drives us. It's created in the hypothalamus here in the center of the brain. And so when we have that emotion, each emotion creates its own chemical compound. Those chemicals go throughout the body. They enter in through the wall of the cell receptors you can see here, and it goes inside the cell. 75 trillion cells in the human body, every cell going through approximately 100,000 chemical reactions per second. So that chemical compound from the emotion, it could be fear, it could be anger, it could be elation, it could be depression, it could be whatever it is, goes inside the cell, creates the chemical compound, causes the chemical reaction, and causes us to feel a certain way. And that way that we feel is actually physical. It can make us short of breath. It can make our, make our heart race. It can make our hands shake. It can do all kinds of things. And so when there's an emotion happening, there's so much more that's happening on a chemical level than just a psychological level as well. We all remember those experiences, very emotional experiences in life. When a child was born, during 9/11, major events in our lives, and we're not only recalling the information. When we do that, it triggers the same chemical compounds that were created based on the recall of that past emotion. And so this is important. Why? Well, it's important because this is very reticent to what happens when you are the person who is responsible for causing the emotion with your client, right? If you are the one who causes the client to see something, to feel something, to have that emotion, to have those chemical compounds curse throughout their body, over time, seeing you again and having the same conversation again is going to trigger that emotion. Hopefully, it's the positive emotion with the right chemical compounds that begin to replay this again and again, and affects the dopamine receptors in the body and gives us that, that high, that feeling of euphoria, that feeling of happiness. And so, as an advisor, the most powerful thing that we can do is to cause that prospect that you're trying to do business with, or your current client, to have those emotions and be able to drive that on a consistent basis to do it again. And so at the end of the day, emotions are key to the buying decision. True or true? The answer is, absolutely yes. Of course, it's true. So, in going through this process, then, and looking at this and saying, well, the business relationship dynamic, there's two people, you and the client. Who needs to be convinced? Not you. You're in the meeting. You're the advisor. You want the client to do business. Of course, it's the client. Who is going to benefit from this relationship? Well, it's going to be the client, obviously. Of course, it's you, but they're the one who is making the buying decisions. Yes. And the answer is of course. And so at the end of the day, it comes down to who's in the driver's seat and who's making the decisions. Well, obviously, it's going to be the client. So we'll get to that, back to that in just a moment. But step number one in going through this process, when you're meeting with a client, emotions are so critically important, is to be able to deliver your why. And so many times we're going to talk about the elevator speech in a moment, but being able to share your why with a client is so critically important, because if I'm meeting with you and I don't give you another reason to know why I'm there, then you're going to assume that I'm doing this so I can earn enough money for a new boat, or to buy a cottage, or to go on vacation. And that's okay, that we're here to make a living. But if we don't give a client something else to focus on, then that's all they're going to see. And that's all they're going to feel and all they're going to believe. And so providing the client with another reason why you're here, what gets you up in the morning, what got you into this business, what changed for you after a couple of years of doing this, is an absolute game changer. So as an advisor, and I've had, some great stories and advisors that I've worked with that, experiences that they have had, and their own why. I had one gentleman, he got into the business because his parents came to Canada as immigrants. They were not educated, and they worked two or three jobs their entire lives, and they were able to put him through school and do everything. But when it came time to retirement, they died penniless. and they had a terrible, terrible retirement years. They continued working pretty much until the moment that that they died. And he made the decision in that moment that it was so sad to watch his parents go through this when they gave so much. He couldn't change their lives, but he made the decision that he wanted to work with other families to be able to help them to avoid the kind of pain that his parents went through. And that's why he does this. And that makes him different. And it makes him very real. Another works with with small business owners, and the conversation that he has with his clients is that he grew up in a family of entrepreneurs. His dad was ran a butcher shop for years and years and years. His uncle was an electrician and ran an electrical company. Another family member was in construction, and he watched these people their entire lives, and it really got in his head because he noticed that every every time that something happened, um, with taxation or with the media or with the government, everyone always went after the small business owner. It's business. Get them to pay more and pay more and pay more. And he realized that these people were the backbone of society. They created 70% of the jobs. They took all the chances. They did all the work. They invested all the money. And then, heaven forbid, if they make $10, somebody wants to take more than half. And so his approach was he doesn't think that people should not pay their fair share, but he believes that it's very unfair after watching a lifetime of small business owners go through this. And so that's why he did this. And so being able to do that with your clients, to be able to really define that emotional level, what gets you up in the morning? Why do you do this? Aside from earning the money, of course, you're earning a living, right? But being able to connect that emotional message to it was just something that was so very, very different for all the clients, and it changes the conversation. And as an advisor, it makes you real and it makes you human. So next is the business branding message. Your brand really is identified by the message, right, that you have to prospective clients. The vast majority deliver, what's referred to as the value proposition. And it on the surface, it really makes sense. But I want you to think back to all of the statistics that we showed about buying decisions. How much is related to logic and reality as opposed to emotions. And you could see that emotions dominates it 24 to 1. But still, the absolute vast majority of people in the business world today, they deliver their value proposition or, the elevator speech. But again, we have to ask the question, who is asking for the relationship? Well, it's going to be the client. And emotion is the key driver to purchasing decisions. So if we're looking at this emotionally, and I'm an advisor and I'm, delivering my value proposition to clients of here's the number of years experience that I have had, here are the designations that I have earned throughout my career, here's the history of my work, here's my approach to this, here's the size of the organization that I work with, my access to experts, all the rest of it. And it on the surface, again, it makes great sense, but does it? So who should your message be about? Again, that branding message or the elevator speech is probably 98% of the marketplace today. But you can see from all the research, it's really not touching the person who should be touched in this. So here's the question. It's a great analogy. I've spoken about this on stage many, many times when this happens. So when it's my value proposition and my elevator speech, look at the light, right? Look at where the light is shining. The light is shining on me, right? Because I do this and I have this and I provide this and I do all of these things. Where in fact, where should the light be shining on? Well, it should be shining on the client because that's, at the end of the day, who this entire relationship is and should be about. Yes or yes? It truly should be. And so in going through this process and being able to change this and to realign it, then what's the answer? And the answer is to shine that light on the client. This comes down uh, to a script that I've worked out over the past couple of years and has now been trademarked, actually, called Experience First Planning. And it's something that takes a little bit of time to learn it and deliver it, but the impact that it has on clients is just extraordinary. So the message to clients, instead of the value proposition, sounds like this. So, Chris, I'll use you as the client here for the example. Thank you very much to have an opportunity to sit down with you and your family and to meet today. I'm always fascinated by this first meeting. We never know where it's going to go, and I truly love what I do for a living. As I mentioned to you, why it is that I do what I do. But one of the things that I wanted to share with you off the top, that's very, very important to me, and this may not be for you, and if it's not, I'm being 100% upfront, and that's okay, is that a number of years ago, in working as an advisor, something that I realized that just didn't make sense was that, I had many clients, yet the approach all seemed to be pretty much the same, right? It was all based on spreadsheets and facts and figures and returns on investment and risk tolerance and all of these numbers and facts and figures that was supposed to, pave the way to retirement. And yet, when I looked at it and I realized, but as an advisor, I'm never going to have another Chris again, right? Your experience in life and the things that you want to create and the things that you want to have and experience is completely different than any other client that I have. And so I made the decision in that moment years ago that I was going to change my approach and not make it, initially about all the facts and figures and numbers and all the rest of it. And listen, that's an important part of my business too. And I'm very good at this. And yes, I have those years' experience. I have the experts. I have the company behind me and the rest of it. But that couldn't be my approach. My approach had to be about you. If we were going to do the very best we could for you, it had to be you. And so I created this process called experience first planning. And I've actually since had it trademarked now because to me, it means so much. And to the clients, it is creating such an incredible platform for us to work within. So here's what experience first planning is being able to sit down and work together and define not first the numbers or the stuff or anything else, but what are the experiences in life that really matter to you going forward that will set the line and become the benchmark of whatever it is that we do and that we create. It could be an experience one day of watching your son or daughter walking across the stage, graduating from university and knowing, squeezing your spouse's hand and knowing that you had the money to pay for it. Or another experience might be to, one day put the key in the door and open the door for the very first time on the family cottage. And that night to be sitting out back around a bonfire and everybody's got a glass of wine and your kids are there and your family's there and a few friends are there and the moon is out and the loon's out on the lake and you're raising a glass and cheering and just going, yes, we did it. We own this family cottage. Or an experience might be one day to call your, then growing children into your home and sit them down maybe in their 30s and late 20s and say, mom and I have something to tell you. No, we're not getting divorced. But we made a decision a number of years ago. Yeah, the kids, that's what they would think, right? But yeah, we made a decision many years ago that it was going to be really hard for you guys to buy a house. And so, we worked with our advisor and started putting a little bit of money away. And after all these years, here it is. Here's an envelope with enough money in here for a down payment. Those are the experiences that people have. And when you have those experiences, it creates the movie in your mind. And when it creates the movie, it creates the emotion and it creates the drive. And so That's my approach to it. Again, it's trademarked. It's called experience first planning. And I wanted to ask you if that is something that you felt would fit your approach of how to put together and to plan your retirement and your lifestyle. We typically start with two questions. One, what are you doing in your life right now that absolutely has to be there? And two, what have you not been able to do yet that would be absolutely fabulous in your retirement? And that's the starting point. So that's experience first planning. And again, what does it play to? Well, it plays completely to what the message should be, right? Changing something where there is really no connection. I can sit all day long and tell you all the attributes of my career, but that doesn't, create an emotion for you. When the entire conversation becomes about you, then it's all emotion based. And I can promise you from the clients that I have using this and people that are working with it, it really changes everything because for the client, again, when they're talking about the kid walking across the stage of handing them the envelope at age 30 of whatever it is that they're doing, the experiences in life that they want to have, they see the movie, it creates the emotion, and you are the one responsible for that. And the bond that is created by that is absolutely incredible. And then it carries forward as well into the work of service with the client, because now there's an emotion and there's a visual connected to what it is that you're going to be doing with this client going forward. So experience first planning, key. The one final part of this is that it's incredibly important to name it rather than, and I know that a lot of advisors will have conversations with clients and say, well, what kind of things would you like in the future, and let's talk about that, and let's make a list and let's do that. This is something that is a trademarked, fashioned approach, completely 100% about the client, called experience first planning, and it gives them that pathway to walk down and to know that your relationship is always going to be about that, of those things that you wanted to have going forward in life. Next is the high net worth market. Continuing on with that same philosophy for people to be able to remain in that space of being connected on an emotional level. Agree with this? Folks that are on this right now, do you agree or disagree that staying connected to a client emotionally is going to pay off down the road? Of course. So continuing to ingrain that emotional connection for your high net worth clients is incredibly important. The intention of your approach is to continue on with the way that you got them, but now going forward of how you're going to care about them. And most of the organizations I work with, most of the offices I work with, and advisors, it really has brought things very focused into this, which is the high net worth market. And I'm not sure what your thoughts are on the high net worth market, but there are lots. There is no lack of individuals who fit this high net worth market. These are figures from a presentation from a few years ago, actually. Wealthy Canadians, 1 to 5 million, 764,000 of them. Higher net worth Canadians, 5 to 30 million, 91,000 in Canada. Highest, over 10,000 people in excess of $10 million. And there was a marketing guy that I work with and studied down in the States a number of years ago. And he had a great way of putting this. He said, listen, don't change the what, change the who. And there's lots of who's. So going after and really being specific and going after the high net worth market, especially again today with all the technology and artificial intelligence and robo advisors and all the rest of it, there's really only enough time to be able to deal with and try and focus on more and more of the high net worth market. So staying in this realm of emotions, and this is work that I've done with clients for many years on this, and asked many people in conferences and meetings before this: have you had a client, good client, one of your top clients, you found out something about them that really mattered to them, and then you went and made a special effort to do something for them about something that you knew they cared about. It could be their kids involved in minor sports or places that they go to vacation, special foods or restaurants that they love, hobbies that they have. And have you gone and done this before for a client, something special? Pretty much everyone in the audience would say, "Oh yeah, I've done that before." And I would pick someone to the audience and say, "Well, what did you do? What was it?" "Well, I had this client and they were really into this. And I, just showed up and I surprised them one day with this. And I, dropped it off at their office, or I stopped by their house and, gave it to their son or whatever it was." And, the question then says, well, what was the reaction from the client? "Oh, it was amazing," right? "Oh, client loved it. Talked about it on and on." Right. And then you look at it and say, "So it worked really well." The guy goes, "Yeah, yeah, it worked terrific." "How often are you doing it?" Probably not very often. And so, therein lies the key. Something that can have such a dramatic impact on one of your top clients. In doing this, everyone agrees with it, but then it takes, the structure and a structured approach to be able to do this. So if you said, the 80-20 rule in business, the 80% of the 20%, the top 20% of your clients probably, have 80% of your assets. And in looking at this, how many of those clients are there? There's 20 or 30 or 35. I wouldn't go more than about 35 with this kind of a model, because you have to put the effort in. But with your A plus plus clients, having this approach where, and there's a whole process. I won't go through everything on this of how to do this and how to manage this, but for your high net worth clients. So if Rob was one of my high net worth clients, one of the first things that I would do is I would create a dossier on him, and then every piece of information that I learned about Rob, it would go in the dossier. Here's what his kids do in sports. Here's what his family does. Here's where they go on vacation. Here are the things that we find out about him. I get that information from the client survey, the specially designed client survey that goes out every year, which is intended to capture more information. The people on my team, my assistant or the receptionist, when they take calls from this person, they learn anything of a personal nature, it goes into that client dossier. And look, people in business and politics have been doing this for a very long time. The U.S. president goes on a visit to the president of France, has a meeting, and there's a continuity expert in the meetings taking down all of the notes to know that 2 years later, when he goes back, to remember that the president's wife's dog had puppies, and there was a lot of talk at the time about whether the daughter wanted to keep all the puppies or not. Did they keep one? Right. And when we do that for people and we prove to them that we understand them, we get them, we care about them, and most importantly, we are thinking about them, it completely sets you apart and different. It's a wall that almost never another client can get through. So that structured, planned approach again is key. So emotional touches, what we referred to a couple of moments ago. When you have a client, you find out something special about them, cars that they love, sports that they love, to be able to do this and then planning 2 to 3 of those emotional touches per year for your very top clients. This is not overwhelming to do, but it has to be planned and it has to be structured in order to do this. And again, the payoff to this is absolutely amazing. One of the advisors that I had a couple of years ago had a high net worth client who was, golf. He was an executive, but golf was everything to this gentleman. He ate, slept, and breathed golf. If he could, get down to a one handicap, it was everything in his life, more important probably than his wife and kids. But anyway, so he knew this, and it was in the client dossier. And at his meeting coming up, there was a reminder in his calendar. It was time to plan an emotional touch for this client. And so what they did is uh, is to approach it the right way. Again, just outright buying somebody something is not the approach. It has to come across that you were thinking about them and you did something for them. So what he did is he called the client up and said, Listen, we had this contest at at the office, and I won the contest. And the contest is a pair of rounds at Wooden Sticks golf tournament or golf course rather to go out and golf with the pro for the day. Would you like to come? And it cost him about $1,000. But to the client, he had won it. He wasn't buying him. And when he called the client and said, "You want to go golf with the pro for the day?" Well, what did his client say? "Oh my gosh, of course." Right? Is the client going to remember that experience for the rest of his life? Tell everybody in his family and some people at work of, what a wonderful day he had and took another stroke off his game by golfing with the pro? And the answer is, of course. Right? So being able to do that, to find out all the information, have it on the dossier, do this all behind the scenes, and anything that you do for a client has to be behind enemy lines. And these emotional touches are planned to show that you are just thinking about them. You're not trying to buy them. The other part of this that can be done very effectively and very powerfully on an annual basis are client research elements. So, client research elements are basically the same thing as an emotional touch, but they're quick. Planned 2 to 3 times a year. And so there are reminders in the calendar that come up and say, it's time to plan an emotional touch for Linda. So we go into Linda's file, we look up her dossier, we find out the things that really matter to her in life. We pick something, and then my assistant or myself will go into the magic box in front of me in the computer, and we'll look up the latest news stories of whatever is happening relative to something that really matters to Linda. Maybe it's World Cup sailing. I don't know. Maybe she's a huge World Cup sailing fan. I don't know that. But if it was and it was in the dossier and my assistant just looks up the latest news on this and it says the latest race off the coast of France, there was an accident and one of the German sailors died. Oh my gosh. Tick 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 tick. Send a quick note to Linda. Linda, I just heard this story about this German sailor that died in the race off the coast of France. What happened? What do you know about this? And Linda goes, "Oh my God, let me tell you all about it." Boy, he must really get me. He must really know me. And the answer is yes. And the impact that that has is extraordinary. I had one advisor, Jim, out in Oshawa, a number of years ago. We were going through this course actually and talking about planning and scheduling all the emotional touches. And so it was very top of mind. And he had a client out in Belleville who was a widow, wasn't very old, but her husband had passed away, and he had about $700,000 investments with the widow, but he knew that they still had a substantial more amount of money in the bank. So he was at the one of a kind craft sale, and one of the things he knew about his client was she loved puzzles. Personally, I have no idea why would you charge somebody to cut up a perfectly good picture and make you put it back together. I don't get it. Anyway, this woman loved puzzles, and so it was this one of a kind artisan puzzle sale at this booth. So, the Monets and, all the rest of it. And so he bought her this one puzzle, $65 in this big tube. It was a 5,000 piece puzzle, took it down to the courier and sent it to her over the weekend. And over the weekend, he gets a call on his cell phone. "Oh my gosh, Jim, I just got this puzzle. You have no idea. This is going to be the best weekend ever. I can't thank you enough. That's wonderful." "Oh, you're welcome. Enjoy it." So that was it, and went on. And by Tuesday, she called him back and said, "I've got everything cleared out on the dining room table, and I'm working away at it. I'm not done yet. It's going to take a while, but I got to tell you, I was really thinking over the weekend with my husband gone, and he kind of managed most of our finances, and as most of it's with the bank, but I just realized over the weekend that you really seem to get me. And would you do me a favor and could I transfer this money over to you and take care of it for me?" $3.5 million. Folks, it was a puzzle, right? But it wasn't a puzzle. It was the fact that he made that emotional connection with this client and really proved to her that he cared. And so it was just so very important to be able to do that. So again, the final part of this is to do this. Everyone says, yeah, doing this once in a while, it always works out well. Well, then we have to create structure to it. and there's not that much structure that is necessary in order to do it. If you have your top 20 or 25 clients and you have emotional touches, client research elements, some of the clients that I work with as well, we go ahead and put their entire service model into the calendar in advance so that they know then in advance every service element for every major client is scheduled with a reminder in the calendar for the entire year. And then what does that allow you to do? To go back and run your practice and take care of your clients and find new clients and build the practice and the rest of it. The worst thing, I had one client in Perry Sound a number of years ago who went through and did all of this and segmented his clients and did an amazing job. It was a lot of work, but got to the point where it was all planned and scheduled, all of his top clients in his calendar for this entire year. And he used to walk by his assistant's desk every day, and the big credenza was there with some 600 files in it. And it gave him anxiety every time he walked by those files because he knew that he wasn't getting to the kind of people that he wanted to get to on a consistent basis. And so it's not insurmountable to do this. It just takes structure and planning. And then again, once you know all of this is in the calendar, you may only choose the emotional touches and the client research elements, but you can choose all the other client, service elements for the entire year and pre-plan it ahead of time. And then knowing that no one is going to slip through the cracks. So again, as we mentioned in the beginning, the difference between wanting and having is doing. And so if you want to, go down this road and implement what you've been talking about, it's key having a consistent model to attract and secure and practice high net worth clients has to continue to have that vision of what you want and how to practice your practice and how to grow it, knowing that you're making a difference, being able to define and deliver your why, talking about all of the things that kind of I think for so many advisors in the back of their mind is there on a regular basis. So, just wanted to mention quickly there are three ways that I work with clients. Number one, this is new, the experience first planning model, licensing of that for a lifetime. The Elevate program, which is a 12-month program, training program for financial services experts, and then the individual coaching program called Epic or Elite Performance Individual Coaching, if one of those seems to be a fit for you. So the experience first planning to be able to use this because now it is trademarked, including the scripting and the work and a meeting together to be able to finalize this is $595 per advisor for today. I'm just launching this, so a $400 discount, pretty decent discount for just $195 if you want to take advantage of that for experience first planning. The second part is the Elevate program that's been in existence for well over 10 years now, worked with thousands of advisors on this program. So there's 12 months, 12 different modules in the first half of the program. It's based on peak performance behavioral work on productivity, new business development, behaviors, the emotional drive of both yourself and the client, focus, growth, and relationships in the first half. And then the second half of the program is based on senior practice development, approach for business. Again, the experience first planning model, A+ client service and segmentation, new business development practices, the platinum referral process, centers of influence, and developing your own mastermind. So 12 months of training, including additional follow-up, contact, and access to me at every time. One of the unique things I think that's done very well and why the program has worked well is understanding from a human behavior, perspective that, giving someone something to do on a daily basis and hoping they're going to repeat it every day falls completely short of how human behavior works. And so something I started doing when I started training people 20 years ago in this business was I bug them every day. And it's really necessary to provide a daily reminder of, did you do it? Did you do it? Did you do it? Did you do it? And that's in effect what creates the behavior. So 12 months of training, the 12 different modules, access to myself at any time, daily contact and follow up, and 6 months follow up after that for 1995. Today, a $1,200 investment if you choose to go ahead with this, and I will include the experience first planning, licensing of that as well, use of that in the trademark for 795. So if the Elevate program is something that you're looking at doing, that's a great option. And then finally, there are a few clients that I work with individually on this with one-on-one coaching called Epic Elite Performance Individual Coaching, and it works very much at your own speed. It's 100% focused on the individual. It goes into all the areas of business development and client approach and client service and segmentation and all the rest of it, but all other areas of life as well. I mean, work-life balance, to be able to manage health and relationships and business and all of it. It's a challenging area. It's something that I've been doing for a very long time. And at the end of the day, improving focus, improving relationships and work-life balance for so many people today, it's a major challenge. It's not the only thing to just take and fill the bank account with money. There's more that goes on there, and so that's what's covered in Epic. We meet typically 3 times a month for 60 to 90 minutes a month, complete set of notes and action steps, and it's very much working in cooperation, kind of in a partnership to help to grow and build your business, and then to improve in other areas of life as well. So that was, that's just a quick overview on this, the human solution. I really appreciate this opportunity. It's something in putting this together that I was really excited about, because the more conversations that have had with advisors to find out what's working for them, and then all the science and research as well that says you have to make it about the client. When you do that, you build a wall that pretty much, no one is going to be able to get through. So thank you for your time. We'll stop the recording here and take some questions